PRR stuff. Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the BMFA Open Speed 2023 update. Sounds like we've got people checked in from all over, so that's great. And we'll just make a start. This is obviously mostly based on what we've been up to here in the UK, but hopefully it's of interest to everybody else. Okay, I just wanted to spend a second remembering some of the folks that have made such a contribution to speed in the UK, especially who we've lost in the recent past. Ray Cox, who's in the middle there, Alan Lee on the right, Dick McGladdery on the left, and Ian Russell, who should have had two L's, but I cannot find a photograph of him. I don't have one. But sadly lost in the recent past and fondly remembered. So moving on, this is just a screenshot of the nationals, the UK nationals that we held this year, just to prove that we did have some entries. We did have a competition, and you can see that Peter and Paul, who are campaigning 12 just as a 12 class at the moment, we're doing pretty well because they're learning, they're on the learning curve there, and the speeds are going up, but they'll kind of start to tail off a bit now. They'll find it harder and harder and harder to go faster. At least that's what we hope. And everybody else, we flew a lot of sport jet. The weather was okay for it, but not great. We were doing it in the 144, 145s. Remember, we're on 19.9. We're on the 65-foot lines, 20,000 65-foot lines here. A little bit longer than the 60-foot lines in the US, although they are 22,000. Anyway, that was just for information. What we really want to talk about today are two proposed changes in the UK. And what we're trying to do is just broaden participation if we can. The first is the introduction of what we're calling 12 personal record ratio as a class, and Paul will talk about that in a moment. And then afterwards, I'll talk about the introduction of the Italian sport jet class, which is also quite interesting. And other speed changes. This is in the UK, remember. We're removing the 21N rule entry requirement of, less than 80% of any speed class national record. And the reason for that is that it's very easy now, and it will also be very easy in 12 and 12 PRR to get within 80% of a class national record. It's all very close. It's certainly true in sport jet. So, we decided we'd get rid of that so that, it doesn't stop people from flying 21N, because we want people to fly 21N too. And the other thing was the removal of the requirement to use commercial fuel in the 12 class, because, quite honestly, it's not that easy to get high nitro commercial fuel just anywhere. And by high nitro, I think we're talking about under 25%. So just on quickly, Table A is a useful table in the BMFA rulebook because it crikey, I've gone the wrong one. Oh, there we are. It tells you a lot about the different classes, and you may notice that the 12 class is 500 grams, and the Italian sport jet class is just 850 grams. And there's reasons for both of those. And I'll let Paul talk about that for the 12. And that you can see just generally how we're organized. And you can find that on the BMFA website in the rule book. Right. So at this point, I'm going to hand over to Paul because he knows an awful lot more about this than I do. So, Paul, do you want to take over here? Oh, Peter's here as well.
Yeah.
It's called Barry Lever, but it's
Even though, yeah, I'm called Barry Lever. Hello.
Let me see if
Hello,
I can
Barry Lever
change
again.
it. Let me see if I can change your name, Peter. No, I can't. All right, there we go.
Okay, Peter, shall I just talk a bit about this personal record ratio?
Yes, please.
Background to it, yeah. We as Dick said, Peter and I had been flying the 12 class, which basically is we've been using Peter's engine with a smaller piston liner and with a super silencer, a half-wave pipe, which is a lot easier to operate than a full tune pipe. And we've been flying to see how they work, and obviously to try and initially to get as fast as we can, and also to encourage others to have a go, because basically the early Irvine 15 engines are readily available, and they can be converted to 2cc, which is what 12 capacity corresponds to. And Peter has the piston liners and parts to do that. The problem we found was we've been flying it 2 seasons now, and the speed, we've increased our speeds quite considerably. It's now the record is over 150 mile an hour, and both of us have done over 150 mile an hour. And that's not easy for anyone who wants to try to learn to fly speed, or even, is contemplating maybe having a go at F2A, the international class of speed. If you've not flown in the pylon, it's even more daunting. So we had a think, and we decided that one way to do this, we basically copied what the Barton Club do with their clubs, their club speed. So the idea will be that competitors will basically compete against their own record. So initially they'll have to choose whether they sign on to the normal handicap league or the personal record ratio league. And if you choose to fly in the personal record ratio league, then there is a qualifying speed which you have to achieve, but fly in the pylon same time. Above which at which you will your first flight that qualifies will achieve a 100%, and therefore you could well stand a chance of winning that first event. However, after that, your record speed will be used as the handicap, so your future speeds in subsequent competitions will be expressed as a percentage of that first initial qualifying flight. So clearly there is an incentive, if there are more people going to have a go to improve your speeds. And anybody who wants to fly speed, I guess, is all in a way always competing against themselves anyway. It's nice to compete against others, but you're always trying to better your own speed. So this offers the chance to do that, but without having to do 150 miles an hour. So we've set a qualifying speed for the class of 105 miles an hour. You have to fly in the pylon. You can't fly out of the pylon. You have to fly in the pylon. And I won't go through the rules here. You can read all that anyway. But the whole idea of this is to encourage more people to have a go at a relatively simple class, to learn to fly in the pylon, and hopefully that encourages people to have a go at some of the other handicap events. To aid in this endeavour and try and encourage people, we have, as a committee, invested in some trainer models, and we we're going to show those a little bit later. So people can have to buy a kit. Here's this is a completed one, which is actually made by CMBL, the French club in Londres. And these were originally designed for F2A training. So you see the motor that's on there is a 2.5cc motor with a tuned pipe, but it's nothing too powerful. It's purely and simply designed as a trainer. And we have basically commissioned the club to build us 9 trainers, and they're actually they have been completed and they're ready to ship. And these will take the Irvine 15 crankcase with a super silencer, not the full tuned pipe. So they're slightly modified to accommodate our PRR for the 12 class. These, of course, can be adapted to take a full tuned pipe, and anyone who then subsequently wants to have a go with a pipe and see how difficult it is, they can modify the silencer mounting and use a full tuned pipe on it. I have another slideshow, but I think probably we could if there are any questions about what these things actually look like as a kit, we could do that at the end. Dick, is that sensible?
Yeah, I just to let everybody know, we're going to put this presentation and the slides that Paul has generated that he just mentioned, which show the construction of one of these models. We'll put them on our website, and I'll give you a link to that. There's a link to that in a slide much further down, and a lot of you guys already know the website anyway, so we'll stick the stuff on there. So, you know, don't worry if we skimmed past some stuff. You will get plenty of time to digest it, and just post questions on there if you have any.
Can I just say something about one of the huge differences between flying one of these trainers with a super silencer as against a tuned pipe. The huge advantage of the super silencer that we found is you can set the needle on the ground with the flying propeller and know that the fuel setting is going to be roughly right for the air, and you cannot do that with a F2A motor. So the whole system is a lot easier to use.
That's great. One other point, it wasn't clear to me, but it is clear if you read all the notes above. You know, you've got to set 105 mile an hour. You've got to beat 105 mile an hour to start in the competition. But then whatever your highest personal speed in becomes your personal record, right? It advances as you advance. I think that's right, isn't it?
That's correct.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Peter, do you want to say a word or two about the engines and stuff and the super silencers?
Yeah, okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yep.
Good. Yes, I did an article last year which published the drawings of the super silencer I've been using. And the first ones I made were all made on the Myford. So it's something which you can do if you've got access to a Myford lathe. It's not mega precision machining, so I think most people who can use the lathe will be able to make them. It takes a little bit of time, but it's not a difficult thing to do. I have made a few, started at work to make a few bits and pieces, but I'm limited how much I can do. I am finding time at work now, and also finding enough energy to go into work. I can't go in for 3 days a week. I just can't manage that. So we'll have to see how we go about making bits of super silencers.
Well, on the upside, Peter, I took your drawing and made one.
Yep.
Some time ago. I made a couple of slight changes because I'm not the precision engineer that you are, but we have flown it and it does work fine, I think.
Yeah, they're such a simple thing that it's not a finicky thing like a full tune pipe, as you don't have to have all the nice smooth contours you have in a full tune pipe. So it's sort of a backyard thing. The only thing you have to be careful of is not to let it get too heavy by having big wall thicknesses everywhere, because you are limited to the 500 grams. Although with these trainer models, they'll be well within the weight.
Okay.
As far as the engines are concerned, thanks to all those who've donated crankcases and crankshafts over the last few months, I managed to quite a collection, and I've found I have 8 crankcases which are usable, and of those 8, I've got 6 which I've almost put together now, and I've modified the cylinders to the same spec as the ones that Paul and I are using. The only difference will be that I haven't got that many spinners and spinner cones. So for those which are going to be used in this CMBL trainer, then I would recommend that you just use a prop driver and a safety nut. The prop driver safety nut arrangement we made for the 15 diesel.
I tell you what, Peter, I have got an almost endless supply of 30mm spinners, which came from Slugger Brown.
Okay.
If I've got 50, I've got 75. Well, I've got 50 anyway.
Right.
And they're pretty much identical.
Were you expecting to break a lot then?
Yeah, well, he talked me into taking them off him. So if you need spinners, I can send you some spinners.
Well, that would be good. If you could send me half a dozen, that would be really good.
Okay, I can do that. Barry, do you think we should ask if there are any questions at this point? I mean,
there's a question come up from Paul Gabot. I'll answer that on the questions and answers session, and we'll sort of build up to some questions at the end.
Okay, we right. So basically, that's what our idea is. Sorry.
Can I just sort of mention that with the modifications of the engines, if you provide a donor engine, then I do a rebuild to a 12, and it costs you £50. If it's a complete engine from scratch, it's going to be 110 probably, because the engines are not spankingly brand new. So probably £110 for to use the donor parts to supply you with a complete engine.
Great stuff. That's really encouraging, Peter. Perfect. And I'm not quite sure Paul, what did we decide the trainers were going to work out? We don't know because of the shipping yet, I guess.
Yeah, they'll be around about £100, and unlike the one you see in the picture, they will have carbon covered wings and tails.
Right, that's right. Okay, great. So we're hoping that a few folks in the UK here will take us at our word and have a go at this, because we think.
Dick, can I ask, what's the target audience? Who are your target audience here in terms of the model flying fraternity? Just interested myself.
Okay.
Speed. I can't do speed. I'm too busy.
Well, we're trying to poach almost anybody from any of the other control line disciplines and perhaps some of the non-control line disciplines. Unlike CMBL, I don't know that we're going to easily be able to get hold of youngsters and bring them all the way. And in my mind, that circle at Buckminster and this model go together just like, strawberries and cream. It should work beautifully there.
So when you come to fly your pylon races, you can all come down and fly one of these.
I think that's right.
That's right. I think where Mark said about the target audience, we know that there's quite a few people who follow control line speed in England. It's not just the sort of
And Scotland and
Scotland.
Wales
Oh yeah, sorry,
and Ireland.
yeah. It's not just the competitors, which I don't know. It's about 15 or 18 competitors. You could see that in the nationals. I think we had 10 or 12. There's about 15 or 18 people who have flown speed in the last sort of year, 18 months. We know that there's probably as many people again or more hanging around the periphery, sort of thinking about, are they going to have a go? And 12 PRR and this model and Peter's contribution with the engine kind of brings all of that together, and you're competing against yourself. So if you make a good performance month on month in the competitions, you can win the league. And I know that there's been a new trophy that's put up for that, in recognition of Ron Irvin's great contribution to modelling and control line speed in this country. So it really does opens the whole thing out. Yeah,
there it is.
Peter.
There it
yeah,
is.
Yeah.
Look at that.
So does that answer your question, Mark?
Yeah, I think it does. I just think it's quite interesting, because whatever disciplines we seem to cover and whatever disciplines I'm involved in, the kit, being able to obtain all of the components to do that gives the novice or the beginner the chance. And I think that's the key to it. So many times, so somebody, the model on the face of it doesn't look complex. So one could arguably say you could build that. But the engine, if you've got no engineering experience and you just turn up with it, you've got the whole kit here, the whole package to be able to do that. And I think that you've ticked all the boxes there. And with you guys, I've known Peter and Paul and Dick for ages. I know what skill levels you're at, and with guidance, I mean, you could probably pick up quite a number of people who've never even flown control line, I could imagine.
Whilst I don't want to say it's not a single engine event either. I've actually converted a 12 car engine, and I've got an OS, and I've got a picture of it further down, and I've shown it to Peter, and even Peter admitted that it's a nice engine.
It is a lovely engine. In fact, there are lots of 12 car engines which would fit beautifully into this.
Yeah.
So you don't have to have an Irvine 12. And because you're competing against yourself, you can develop that engine yourself. And I think there's a good chance with some of the car engines will be quicker than my Irvine 12.
Oh, that's good.
There's only one way to find out, Peter.
Yep. Get
Great
out
initiative.
there.
Sorry for interrupting you. Yeah.
I think one of the other things I'd like to say is that I think both Peter and I are agreed that anyone who wants help, if they show signs that they're keen and they come and have a go, we will help them as much as we can.
Yeah,
there's nothing to, we're not, we're coming to the end of our speed career, so we might as well try and pass on as much knowledge as we've got for what it's worth.
Yeah.
And we'll do the same as well up our end at Barton. Although we're obviously, I mean, between us, we know a bit. We do know a bit. So we'll take you on. We'll get some of our guys and get them to take you on. Anyway, okay, let's try and move on a bit. Oh look.
Oh, okay. It's that man again.
I don't have a copy of the presentation by my side, so this is it's as much of a journey of mystery to me as it is to you. So anyway, that was just at the Nationals, I think, this year.
Yes. Yeah.
So that was just a picture. Okay, can we talk a little bit about Italian Sport Jet and why we're interested in this? Let me go down a slide or two. Over the last couple of years, there have been some World Cup events in Italy. And there has been a move to bring on or revive jet flying in Italy, because it kind of died. I want to say it died in the 90s, 80s and 90s. But a lot of the proponents are still around. You know, Stefano Zanin and his dad Elio Zanin are still around. So they decided to invent a class using sport jet rules. They looked at the US, the NAS sport jet rules, and they looked at our sport jet rules and came up with their own. And if you look last summer, it looks like that man Billy Hughes, that world traveler, competed. So I know the two lads from I can't actually see the name from Switzerland were there as well, because we were in touch with them.
Yeah, Daniel and Guy.
Daniel, that's it. So anyway, so in actual fact, they're having a return event on the I can't actually see something on
15th and 16th of June, Dick.
Yeah, 15th and 16th of June. So in 2024. So, you know, we're trying to get a bit of interest going to see if we can go. And the only way we can do that is to have a class that we can fly. So I proposed that we would have a go at that. And everybody said, okay, give it your best shot. And so I built a model, and these are the rules. The rules are pretty similar generally, with a few, but there are a few exceptions. Most of the flying circles in Europe are sized to fly F2, and so the flying lines need to be F2 length, so they're F2A length. It's a 2-line event. It's an external control system event, and there's the pull test. There are 20 thou lines. 0.5 is it? 20 thou lines. The other thing is that you can use any pulse jet so long as the maximum internal diameter somewhere along the length of the tailpipe is 32 mil, which basically is the 1 1/4 square inches that's in the US and we have. The fuel oh blimey, I keep twiddling me thinking I mustn't do that. I need to leave it alone. The fuel is standard unleaded gasoline, and I thought that was going to be a real problem. But it was quite a surprise to all of us when we came to try and run it, and the rest of it's just run it in accordance with F2A rules. So you can see the rest of the rules later. But this is I got in touch. We got in touch with Paolo Del Bianco, and he actually sent me a sketch of his model, and that's the sketch there. So I used that as the basis to build a model, and there my lovely assistant is holding the model that we built before we ever flew it, so it's all nice and clean. That is a Zanin engine. It's a Z28 VVC, which is available from Stefano Zanin because we talked to him and we managed to buy 2 of them off him. And they run very well. On the right is a set of parts that I have made for the next model. These models are relatively light for a pulse jet model, which is quite refreshing. The white model, the first one I built, is, apart from obviously the alloy tube for the fuel tank, is all wood. It's a wooden wing and a wooden tail. It's got a metal root piece to hold the bell crank and to which the wooden bit's glued. And you can see it, it's that T-piece thing on the right hand of the parts picture. Barry made a couple of wings, and I have made I made a couple of tanks. So it's thin-walled aircraft alloy tubing with bungs at each end, with which are hollowed out, obviously, with O-rings on, and the mounts attached to the bungs on the end. The tail is actually made out of a piece of 1-inch pine, and I just spun it up. Actually, I didn't have to spin it up. I hit it with the belt sander and flattened and made it. So it's really simple to make. I mean, it might look a bit complicated there with all the metal bits, but you don't have to have metal, because that white one is wood apart from the tank. So that's, that's quite encouraging. And there is a YouTube flight of it flying. We've already done 150 mile an hour with that white model. So, we think we can take them on. So that was really all I was going to say about that just now. We can do some Q&A on that. Now, one of the other things that happened at the Nationals, and we've also got a video of that on YouTube, there's a link further down, was, Paul, you want to talk about this? Why should I talk about it?
Well, anyone who's read the Error model will have seen that I wrote a 2-part article on the model, which was originally, the idea was I would celebrate 40 years since I learned to fly monoline by building a Pink Lady monoline model. That actually turned out to ended up as 50 years when I actually got to fly it. But when I learned to fly monoline, if you read the article, you'll see I admired the Pink Lady. It's a really nice model, but I never actually flew one. So I thought, before I get too old to do it, it'd be nice to build one and fly one. And this particular example that I eventually built flies superbly. It's just a hands-off model. As soon as you actually get it out the dolly and level it off, it flies itself. It's incredible. And I made a deliberate attempt to make a replica of the model that Bill Wisniewski used to win the World Championships in 1964 in Hungary. So this was before the day of the tuned pipe. He used the first model engine to ever use a third port, a boost port. Up until then, it's not been used in competition. Otherwise known as the Wart, due to its peculiar crankcase excrescences. The thing is that only, as you probably have seen in my article, only 6 of the type of motor that was used at the World Championships in 1964 was ever made. And although I'd have liked to have powered my airplane with one of those, that obviously wasn't going to happen then. So I built a hybrid motor, which originally was built by a couple of guys called Husted and Roy in the States at 29 size, but they also built a 15 size and a 60 size motor. And I built a 15 size, 2.5cc size motor. So this has basically a K&B crankcase, bottom end, bearings and induction system, rear induction, and Super Tiger piston liner. And I decided that for longevity and the fact that the thing will work better anyway, I used ABC piston liner for it, with a newly designed head and modern glow plug. And I thought, well, this ought to work a lot better than the original K&B 15R Series 64 ever did, and I was proved right. It is a more powerful motor, and it's more easy to operate as well. So this doesn't use a metal tank; it uses a bladder. I'm quite, I'd say I'm quite used to using bladders in smaller motors, and always found that gave a good run, provided you've got someone who's good at dialing in the needle, which Dick was at the video that's on YouTube, and the other Richard Miles, who's I think also online, also is pretty good at dialing them in as well. So it's a useful thing, and to have someone who can needle a motor for you if it's a bladder fed. There is a second part to this project, which is to actually build a proper Wart engine, and to try and use some of the knowledge we've gained over 50 years to try and improve it. And the hope is that I'll be able to build one and put that in this model.
That sounds like a topic for another ITAP. That this time
yeah,
next year.
And Barry will know that one of the things that both he and I have been interested in, and Peter as well, is the fact that the crankcases for these motors can now be printed, 3D printed directly in aluminium, and the material we're fairly confident is strong enough. It machines well, and it gives you the advantage of being able to model complex porting and transfer systems without having an elaborate system of tooling to actually allow you to to cast that and be able to release the casting. So this is I think this is the way to go, and well, that's the project.
Yeah, we'll follow you along, Paul, and we're obviously going to follow Barry along as well on this, because it is definitely leading edge stuff for us. Let's see where we go. Oh, this was at the Nationals. It's just on a separate project, just to let you know that we're able to train almost anybody that's willing to operate the Transitrace pretty well. Christine and Andrew did a great job at the Nationals, and just wanted to make sure that we thank them for that. So I thought I'd just show, I had the picture, so I thought I'd put it in. And then this one, I just love this photo. I took this at the Nationals, and that's young Joe. And Peter was clearly explaining something quite technical, because he was using both hands.
It's my Italian heritage, that is.
Yeah, it was good. So there we are. Okay, so we talked about YouTube videos. This is where you can find the YouTube videos. I've got a couple of channels there, and there's a bunch of videos on either of those. Peter Harvey has a channel, and this one here is where Paul's Flight with the Pink Lady is. Unfortunately, he set it up as a child video, so sometimes it's a bit temperamental to get on. We need to try and ask Peter to fix that. And then another guy who's done a few Pulse Jet videos is this chap, Dom. He has an Essential RC YouTube channel, which is extensive. But if you search for Pulse Jets, there's 2 or 3 of our flights on there. And of course, Big Joey, okay, gone the wrong way again, has a channel at Matheson.com. And at the bottom, you'll see the link. If you just Google that, you'll come straight up with our website. Of course, it's not, that's where you'll be able to see this and hopefully get onto that pretty quickly. Let's see what else we got. I think that's it. I've just got some backup slides after that. So I guess we can do Q&A, Barry, if you want.
Yeah, we've got a question that's come in from Mike Davis about that 3D printing. He asked whether it was at home workshop level yet. It's not, unfortunately. The machines, they're called it's called direct metal laser sintering, and basically the laser melts an aluminium powder. So in the same way as a 3D printer prints in layers, what happens is a layer of aluminium powder is put down onto the print bed. The laser fires where it wants to melt that aluminium powder. Then it scrapes another layer of aluminium powder over that. So you can't actually see it kind of getting built, because the whole thing, the whole box that it's in, is getting filled with powder, but your part is getting built in the center of it. So it's quite complex, but has to be said that you can go to companies like Shapeways. They're an online print resource. You can upload your model, which I think is what Paul done, and you get a quote back, and it's, considering that you can just have one crankcase made, they are not horrendously expensive. I think that's fair to say, Paul.
Yeah.
It's a when you actually get a part in your hand, it is really, really exciting. You think to yourself, what else can we do with this? And the possibilities are endless. I don't have the crankcase here. It's out in the workshop. But it was in Aero Modeler. Dick put it in Aero Modeler. So that was that one. Then we got Dylan Roberts. He's asked, what glow plugs are being used in the 12 class anywhere in the UK to obtain wire to rewire plugs? On that, not that I assume 12 destroy plugs very often. So I think, Peter, what were the plugs that you were using?
I started off using the F2A plug because it was something I had, and I had pretty good knowledge on it. However, I found that it's actually quicker with a turbo plug, and I've been using the OS. I think it's the P3 turbo plug, which is a sort of mid-range temperature turbo plug, and that was actually a couple of miles an hour faster than my drop-in type plug.
Why do you think that is, Peter? Do you think it was just down to the element, or what? The heat range?
It could just be that but you go from one head to another, compression ratio was slightly better with the head I made for the turbo plug than it was for the drop-in plug. But what it demonstrates is you don't have to go for the aluminium bodied complicated plug that we use in the F2A model. You can get a plug off the shelf and use that. It's just as good.
It has to be said as well that the range of turbo plugs that are available, for just so as everyone understands, a turbo plug is really a car racing tapered plug, rather than Henry's much more shallow tapered plug. The turbo plugs are very, there's lots of people still making turbo plugs. OS, Western have them. Most of the car companies seem to have a range of glow plugs. So yeah, really, really easy to get. The question also from that guy was about wire. It's not easy to obtain wire, is it?
No, and it's getting progressively more difficult because as the number of companies making glow plug engines diminishes and the amount of usage of glow plugs diminishes, then the supply of the size wire we want becomes more problematic, unless you're willing to buy a complete melt, and then you're looking at $4,000 or something to do it.
Yeah. Can
I just say something on glow plugs?
Sure.
I've tried Nelson style flat coil, and in each case I machined a similar style head. So I've used Peter's flat coil F2A plugs. I've used the Nelson style, and I've also used the turbo, proper turbo 8mm turbo plug, and I've stuck with the 8mm turbo plug from Western, and the fuel, the maximum nitro you can use in the 12 class is 25%. Western unfortunately don't do the hotter plugs, so they I think they're actually made by TCA. They come from TCA, but they don't have the TCA logo on or any numbers on. TCA do I think a 1 to 7 or 1 to 8, but Western only do start at 5, and 5 is the coolest plug you can get away with. If you use a 6, it doesn't work. I've tried it with more compression, and it was slower than the 5 with the optimized compression. So that's the one to use. Western number 5 turbo cone plug.
That will be somewhat cheaper than an OS plug as well.
They're very good price.
Yeah.
Definitely would be.
OS plugs are very good though, I have to say.
They are, yes. They do have a better wire.
Yeah.
I think we've got some pictures here of some of the car engines that I've converted. Just for interest, just see if we can get anybody interested. See if I can find them. These are just some other. Right. So here, these are 28 engines. So in the UK, we have a Formula 28 class. And these are just car engines. The middle one is an OPS. And that does run a turbo plug, but the little button, the 60-degree cone, I think there's something wrong with it because it leaks. I've got to make a new button for it. And the others are just fairly cheap and cheerful car engines. You know, I don't think I paid. Well, the Thunder Tiger above was second hand, and I think I got that for about 50 quid or something. The brand new Force engine, I can't remember, Barry, but it's about 150 quid, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it was a bit less than that.
Bit less than that.
Yeah, about 125, 130.
And the one on the right is well, they're made in Taiwan, but it's a German car company.
Wasn't it called LTR?
LTR, something like that.
Yeah.
I've got 2 of those, and the other one is actually in the Formula 29 model, which I didn't take a photograph of. But we have running it, and I mean we haven't really sorted them out yet. They're in the kind of 150 mile an hour. Probably do more than that if we tried harder. We haven't done that yet. So that's them. These are 21 size, and obviously the cases are pretty much the same as the 28 cases. Again, there's a Force on the left, and that's the one that Chris Martindale did. I think the one that I did, Peter Harvey has. The one at the top, Peter Hellman, is an old Irvin 20, which I have thrashed to death in an RC model, and I'll tell you that it outperforms some of these others on the same fuel on my test prop.
What can I say?
And then there's, you know, so that they're all good fun. And here, this is a 12 car engine that I converted. And that's one of those spinners, Peter.
Yes, they look nice.
So, you know, you don't have to, you know, you can try one of these and put the super silencer on it. I had to make a back plate for it because it had a pull start on it.
Dick, when you say it's too short for a pan, are you meaning it is too short to go in an Irvin style pan?
Yeah, you couldn't drop it in
in
a regular
pan.
Well, either that or a Profi pan, really.
No.
The distance from where the bolt holes are to the front end of the crankshaft, these are stubby, compact engines, you know.
It's a stumpy little engine, that is, isn't it?
But they'd obviously go in a profile model, no bother.
Yeah.
Quick question from a non control line of an engine man. But the pans, could you 3D print a pan now with with in some of the good quality plastic barrier, do you reckon?
No, you wouldn't be able to
Heat
use a
probably.
plastic pan. No, the closest you could get is to the technique that Peter described in one of the previous ITATs, which was using a printable wax and doing an investment casting, or when this DMLS becomes more accessible, to completely print the pan. But I think we're a long way off of printing pans because the part's quite big. So if you were to use a 3D printing process, it would be an investment casting. Do you think that would be viable, Peter, a investment cast pan?
Yes, it would be, but I would think the overall cost would probably be comparable to finding a small machine shop to machine a pan for you.
It has to be said, Chris Martindale's not on the webinar tonight, but he's a flyer from the Barton Club, and he made some quite nice pans just in a regular lathe, like you guys probably done many years ago. You know, he just chewed away at it and milled out and turned and had some quite nice pans. I mean, that's how people used to do it, wasn't it? You
Yeah,
just used to.
my first ones were done on the Colchester and the Bridgeport.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's making a pan is doesn't need real complicated machinery. Just basic manual machinery will do it. Very nice doing it on a
You just
CNC
need a
machine.
big enough lathe that you can put the whacking great drill at the middle of it.
Yes. Yeah. I think
has made some, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think Chris even actually he kind of made a tube and split it and just accepted that it wasn't going to quite be, that he lost the cut line through the middle.
Yeah.
He didn't scrap off one half of it, is what I'm saying. He used both halves of it. So
there we go. So
no
that
other.
was I don't know what else we've got here. I don't know what else I put on. Oh yeah. So earlier on, Paul was talking about monoline, and at one stage we said we were going to try and talk about monoline and monoline training, and this really is just the torque unit assembly on a monoline trainer that I put together. You can see it's been well used because you can see where the wing joins the fuselage. There's a bit of a crack there, but it's been splattered into the tarmac more than once. But that works pretty well, and is quite simple to install on a profile model. So, and it
Just
works
explained it. Just explained it. What's going on with those? The torque reaction. I mean, I think the first thing to say is that the handle end of it looks like an old Yankee pump screwdriver, so it twists the line up and down about, I don't know, about 30 turns, something like that, Dick.
Yeah. I mean, so a monoline operates on the principle that you are twisting the wire around. All right, so you're applying a torque to the wire, you're turning it around, and obviously the number of turns is lost as you go along the line to the model, but at the end there's still sufficient turn to move the moving arm there, which you can see in the middle. So move this without clicking anything here, and maybe nobody can see that.
Yeah, no, it was visible.
Yeah.
Okay, and that whole thing there is that is silver soldered to there, and then it comes down here, and this is is not silver soldered, it's soft soldered here. These are flying wires. I'm not quite sure what size. If I had to guess, my favorite is 18 thou. So that's two 18 thou loops that have come down. On the other side of there's a little tiny piece of maybe 10 or 12 gauge piano wire going through a loop of that, and it's all bound round and soldered, because all of the pull is taken by that piece there and that piece there, right? Because it comes down, you just soft solder it to that, so that any torque here is going to translate to there. That's all that's happening, right? And then you just hook onto the button, and away you go. And I mean, this is not original to me, right? This has been used by quite a few folks over a long time. But it worked well, and quite a few of us had a go. That's at flying monoline on that before we started flying the jets on monoline. That's what that is. I don't know what else okay. A very useful gizmo. This is a very useful gizmo to me, because I'm not a precision guy. But I use this in my lathe, and all it is a ball bearing. As you can see, it's just a ball bearing unit mounted in a tool holder. So if you've got something, you put it in the chuck, it might not be very long, and you want to get the front face flat, you can advance that up to the front face, and of course when it's all turning, it's so long as you haven't screwed the chuck down super tight, it will straighten the piece out so that you can get your thing back. So I use that quite a lot, particularly if I've been fiddling with something and then I find that I haven't quite got it right and I need to put it back into the chuck, having already parted it off, for example. So now I haven't got a load of stuff to grip it with, and I want to get that face bang on. That's what I use. But what I discovered was, when I was making, the reason it's here, the super silencer. So Peter, being Peter, threaded his outer cones, right? Mm-hmm. And I thought, that's too hard. So what I did was I machined the outer with just a tiny lip on it with about a 1 mil over. So then I could push the end cones in and set this tool holder at the angle of the cone and advance it and peen that 1 millimeter over and hold it in. And that's what I did. Mm. And it worked pretty well. So that's why I showed that. So that's an easy way to install the cones into a super silencer without going to all the trouble of doing the threading. But you do have to thread the inner part where the inner tube goes through the front cone, and it's a something or other by 40, I think Peter wrote. I think it's a 932 9/16 BSF 40, because that's the tap that I use, because it's a 40 thread tap and die.
It was a Peter size thread, actually.
I know, but I found the nearest. I should have told everybody what it was, because I bought the tap and the die from Tracy Tools in carbon steel for about $5 each.
Yeah.
So that made it pretty easy, and it was 40 TPI, just in case that was critical.
It's not. It's not. You need to learn to machine threads, Dick. It's really quick and it's really satisfying.
Yeah.
And I was an aluminium. I was used 32 TPI. It's available on the direct on the gearbox. So.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah, that's something I haven't done a lot of yet. And
I think the peening piece, you made a comment about this because the original Irvine Super Silence had a peened rear cone, and I can remember using them on a 40, and the thing's just coming loose and falling to bits.
Yeah, they used to.
Uh,
They originally we did do that. We rolled
Yeah.
the cones over. We also rolled the front sections over,
Yeah.
and then we had a lot of them fell apart. So we ended up brazing them to
Mm.
get around
Yeah.
that.
Did you peened them and brazed them, didn't you?
No, no. When we brazed them, we just brazed them, dropped them in, and
Did
brazed
you?
them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that the rear cone used to spin in the Club 20 one some of the time, but you know, broadly speaking, it was a good. You know, we used hundreds and hundreds of those things.
It was a lot quicker when we did the rolling on the
I
cone.
did just go out and get the printed crankcase. If I might just put that up. I'm not sure how well it's gonna come out, but
Yeah.
We can see it fine.
yeah, can see it's machined up nicely. It's got a hardness pretty similar to 6082 T6. Kind of machined it. It's absolutely void free. There's not a pinhole or anything in it. It's really comes out pretty nice.
Looks
You
spot
can
on, doesn't it?
yeah, and you can see the kind of detail that's comes into it. The that's not where the top of this cylinder is. It's going to have like a half integral cylinder, a bit like a team racing engine. We didn't want to go for a full integral cylinder like the MB pylon racing engine is at the moment. We'll be able to machine our ports in the cylinder and have the advantage of the integral cylinder above, you know, with the cooling fins all part of it. But I mean, you know, I guess at some stage or another, someone will try and print a complete cylinder and try and get it chromed. So we'll see. So, is there any other questions? Would anyone from the audience participants like to come on? It's when we've done the control line speed ones before, we've been pretty relaxed about participants coming on. If they want to come on, if they just put their hand up, which is down in the bottom there, Mark, I think it's in reactions, isn't it? No.
It should go to the top of the list. Yeah, it should come up.
So there's a question coming in now. It's Mike again. Yes, Mike Davis, this guy who asked about the 3D printing. I think he said what was Shapeways, was it? How
Yes.
much coring equivalent work is in the 3D model before sintering? The 3D model looks exactly how you would like the crankcase to come out. So you probably can't quite see it in you know, you can just about pick up the exhaust port. So whatever you want it to come out like, you model that, and it just prints it. They do have some supporting structure, but none of it was internal. So it's more of a modeling exercise than anything else. And of course, it does allow for quite complex internal shape. It is early days with it, but it looks very promising to me. And it's probably light as well, because if that was machined from a billet, which is quite a in vogue way to make performance engines at the moment, you are not going to get all of those little bits of material out that are in the 3D printed case. Also, ties a machine up for a long time. Printing, if you were to machine a crankcase like that, or an F2A crankcase, you're going to be on a CNC machine for quite some time. Okay, I think we're about done. unless
It
there's
looks
any
like
more
it.
questions. What normally happens, just when you say that you're going to shut it down, another question comes in, but hey ho, we'll fend that off. I think that's
I
gone
think
pretty well.
I think a lot of these, Barry, people go away and then think of the questions afterwards. I know I do. You know, certainly with the disciplines that I like. You know, it's always after I've sat down having a cup of coffee, I think I wish I'd asked that. But I think, you know, these guys are really accessible. You know, everybody in the room. If you want to email, you know, we can get questions across through the in the air tonight. Email address to send across to that, and obviously they've put some web connections in as well. So
Yeah, the presentation, the PowerPoint presentation that's gone on now, and also one that Paul Eisner prepared, which was very specifically about the CMBL model. They're both going up on the BMFA Speed website tonight, and we'll send out a notification. Not everyone who's in this audience list is on the website. I see names in there that are not in our sort of subscribers. We got about 260 subscribers, 261 or something like.
I've just put the slide back up that has the link there.
Yeah.
If you just Google that cl-speed.bmfa.uk, you will come straight up.
Yeah.
With our website, and that's where we'll put all this information. And if you have questions, just stick them onto the website, and we'll see them and we'll answer them.
Yeah.
If we don't, Barry will make sure we do.
Yeah, that's right. And there is also a forum there. It's not being used much, but it is there. Needless to say, 2 more questions come in. Colin Sharman, editor Aero Modeler. If you'd like to do an update on CL Speed in 2024 for Aero Modeler, that would be great. Yeah, I think we would.
Colin Arnold, do you have any issues with pulse jet noise levels?
I'll let Dick answer that.
well, not at Barton, Mark, but we haven't talked Manny into letting us fly them at Buckminster yet. But that's
No.
okay. That's okay. You know, I don't want anything to happen at Buckminster that queers the pitch there. You know, it's a really great resource. We need to make the most of it, and I'm kind of hopeful that the 12 PRR class will bring a little bit more interest there. We fly pulse jets very regularly at Barton, no problem at all. And you can see those top 2 links there, they're pulse jet flights. So if you're interested in pulse jets, I know it's a bit further north than Buckminster, but that's where we are. And if you go on the Barton forum or even on our forum, you will see the calendar for 2024. Speedcom has an integrated calendar which shows both the Buckminster and the Barton dates. I think they're almost correct, and we'll just update them as we go along. And but you can get a flavour of I think there are about 7 or 8 meetings at Buckminster and 7 at Barton, and the Nationals.
Yeah.
So plenty of opportunity for people to come out and fly, which is what it's all about.
Yeah.
And I think, just to reiterate what Barry and I have learned over the last few years we've been doing this, that just about every aero modeler we've met wants to help people. And I think this is just so important. So if there are people out there who are just nervous of asking questions, don't be. You know, I don't know many of the people who are interested who don't just give honest and straight answers and want to help. So, you know, I know from my disciplines that just about everybody wants to help, and we've seen it from all the others, and you guys seem to be exactly the same. And you know, I know you from the past, and I know you'll help anybody who comes forward who's interested. So it's amazing. You know,
we've got a guy who specifically wants to ask a question. He's gone to the top, like you say.
Yeah.
so if it's Dave Rigotti, he's from NAS in the USA. Dave, if you unmute yourself, you're unmuted now, Dave. So if you want to ask your question, Dave, fire away.
Yeah, no, nothing. I'm sorry. Did I have my hand raised?
Yes, you did, Dave. Yeah, yeah. No worry. It's good to speak to you anyway.
Yeah. No, I'm sorry about that, but no, I think this is very interesting. I kind of like the trends you guys are looking at here, is getting more people involved.
Yeah, the event still has relevance, and it's easy to follow. We're lucky over here. We've got two really good circles, the Buckminster Circle and the Barton Circle. We've got good flyers, and you know, it's not dead. We're just about getting more people in than are dropping off at the end.
Let me just,
Okay.
let me just say, so first of all, thanks Dave for getting me back on
Okay.
to NAS. That's very kind of you. I'll get me sub sorted out for 2024 now.
Yeah.
But that wasn't I just wanted to say thank you. But the other point, really, to Mark Ben's statement there, we're here to help. We really are here to help, and there aren't any secrets. But let me just say this: we're all competition folks, and there's always a best time to ask a question, and it's probably not 30 seconds before we're about to go into the circle, or if it looks like something's going wrong.
Yeah.
Just hang on for a few minutes. Hang on to that thought until we come down.
Sense of occasion, Dick, is what you're talking about.
I think that's right.
Yeah, we got one more come in. Has anyone created a useful silencer for the F2A size tune pipe the way that F3D rules require these days? So that's really one for Peter to answer. You know the differences between the pipes, Peter, and the F3D rule just looks for a 20 dB reduction on the unsilenced pipe.
Yes, I have experimented in the past with making a thing similar to what Rob produced for the pylon engine, and I'm discussing with Rob as well. We both came to the conclusion with our measurements that it's actually a waste of time with an F2A engine, because the noisiest thing on that is the propeller.
Oh,
Yeah.
He makes about 3 or 4 dB more than the engine exhaust does. So even if you made the exhaust note 0, you would only reduce the overall noise impact by about 1 decibel.
Yeah, I think also the other thing to say is that the F2A model doesn't get very high and doesn't run for very long comparison with a pylon racer. A pylon racer runs for a minute, and even a well-flown pylon racer is sort of gonna sort of be at 15-20 meters, and that massively increase, and it's a much bigger engine. It's a much more powerful engine. It's more than twice the capacity. It's it's more than twice the capacity, and it's twice the horsepower. So there was needed to be work done in F3D pylon racing, and when that silencer did come in, it took the sharpness out of the noise. I think that's all you can say. Okay.
On that note, I would like to thank the three guys, Dick, Paul, and Peter, in no particular order. Thank all the participants, because I think this is the last one of the year, isn't it, Barry? I don't think we're here next week, are we?
No, we're not here. No. The next one will be Mike Woodhouse on Free Flight, and then we've got an interesting character called Martin Thompson going to give us a webinar on how to run a successful club auction, which he's very good at.
Yeah, and we'll wish everybody an amazing Christmas and a wonderful New Year, and we will see everybody back in
In
what
the new
date?
year. Yeah.
New year. First
Yeah.
week back, I think it is, isn't it, Barry?
Yeah, first week. I think it's might be the 9th.
Might be the night. Cool.
By memory.
We'll let everybody know
Yeah,
anyway.
it'll go out. It'll be circulated.
Thank you all, and yeah, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everybody.
Yeah, Merry Christmas.
Okay, thanks
Yeah,
everyone.
Happy
I'm
Christmas to
going
you.
to stop
All
the
best- best
recording
wishes.
and